All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Sandra, we're blaming you because you two came in together. So, not really. Okay. Thank you for being here this morning. If you'll stand with me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, if you'd please remain standing, I don't see who I had coming to pray for us this morning, but we have an incoming commissioner that's going to open us in prayer this morning, if you would. Would you go to the podium?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this season and for all the blessings you give us. Thank you for this commission and the people that work in this county and the city and the state and the federal government. Help them to be the leaders that you want us to be. Thank you for all the blessings you give us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, welcome again, and thank you for being here. Is there anyone here this morning for a public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Doug Smith, the City of Arlington. I was looking at your agenda this morning before I came in here, and I see that you guys are going to join the fire departments together. And I was talking to one of the guys before I left, trying to get his viewpoints on what's going on. And he says, well, I know we talked about this, you guys talked about this earlier this year. And they say they feel like they're being pushed on ramrod, and they are volunteers. And if you don't give them a little respect and listen to them, it's going to be hard to get more volunteers. So the only thing we want you to do is just talk to these guys, man. Let them know you're not just ramrodding something at them.
Well, I appreciate that comment, Mayor. We did have an open, just for FYI, we did have an open forum where we had a lot of them speak early on to this matter, and we fielded lots and lots and lots of phone calls and emails. We have responded to those. We've had multiple meetings where we went out, and I mean, there's been every ample opportunity. And the decision hasn't been made yet. That's to be determined, and so I'll just speak to that careful consideration has went both ways in this, and I'd rather address this, so I just want to leave it there. I'll address more when we get to that agenda item and divulge more information. So I appreciate your comments this morning. Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment? Well, if not, let's determine any additions or revisions to the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove 6B, 6C.
D?
B as in boy, C as in Charlie, and 6M as in Mike from the consent agenda.
Yeah, we took that. Those will be moved under 7F to whatever follows that then. So, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any further comments or questions on agenda items, revisions, or? All right. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion to pass that, or?
Motion to approve.
Comments?
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Friesen. A second? Second by Commissioner Bogner. Any comment? If not, roll call.
Sorry. Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Business items, moving into 7A, appointment of Harley Macklin to serve a third term, 3 years term. It's 3 consecutive terms, I guess, on the Planning Commission.
Don Britton, Director of Public Works. The last commission meeting, this was tabled in order for me to come back with a recommendation. As I said, the first meeting, Harley's done an outstanding job the 6 years he's been here. He challenges the other members, and he acts on behalf of everybody within the zoned area of the county. It's my recommendation that you appoint him to another term on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Don.
I would move to approve. Mr. Harley Macklin to serve the third three-year term on the Planning Commission.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Friesen. Further comments?
My comment would be that in the future, I think it is to each one of our commissioners that sit on the Reno County Commission to look at their district and to study and talk to people out there who can be qualified and be able to and interested in serving on this so that our geographic area is represented.
Okay. Any other comments? Not, roll call.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes?
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel.
No.
Commissioner
No.
Bogner.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
4-1.
Or 4-1. I always say 4-0. I'm sorry, Commissioner Weitzel, I don't know why I do that.
I understand.
Bring it
Thank you,
forward.
sir.
7B, resolution to extend solar moratorium. Patrick, you're up.
You all remember back in October, you sent some, the solar regulations as were being developed back to the Planning Commission with some specific instructions. They're being worked on. Because they're not going to be ready by December 1st, it's going to require the county, or I guess not require, but either we do the moratorium for longer or we just snap back into no regulations, which would not be very efficient. So that's the reason for the proposal was, for this is to just give Planning Commission a little bit more time to finally wrap this up.
Having said that, how long do you think it needs to be extended?
They asked until March 1st, and I assume that's how long. I think I'm sure their goal is to get it as, I'm sure everyone involved in the process at this point is looking forward to it being complete. But that should hope, I would be really disappointed if we have to extend this moratorium an additional time, put it that way.
Okay.
Is that fair, Don?
Point of order, when is our last meeting in December?
December 23rd.
23rd, okay. That being said, guys, I'd like to move to accept this, but as written, except for to make the moratorium until December 23rd. I'd really like to get this finished before, because other words, if we get a new board, then, it could go another 12 months.
I don't see that happening, actually, Commissioner Weitzel, and I don't think that's an adequate time for them to finish this. I don't think there's any way in the world in a meeting that they have that they're gonna finish this in 1 month, so.
As we were also explained in the agenda item here, that if they do finish it, then we can
lift that.
we can drop that moratorium and go from there.
Right.
So if they do get it done in December, we can still do that. It's not waiting until March 1st. We can.
Well, we haven't gotten a second yet, so not really appropriate discussion.
Is there a second?
You bet.
Well, seeing none, is there a new motion? I'd motion that we accept the March 1st date to move the moratorium out to that point, giving the Planning Commission appropriate time to complete it. Seconded by Commissioner Bogner. Any further comments?
So your motion is to accept what's in the packet, just to clarify for the record.
Yes. Yes. Adopt the resolution.
I mean, I would say didn't second Weitzel's motion, but I think he makes a good point. I mean, if it is something that we can get done by the end of the year, and it sounds like that could happen, it may not happen, so.
But I'm the one who recommended it to go out to the date that it is, just so that we won't have to come back here in case we'd have to extend it again. I think that is far more time than what we'll need. We'll have a draft for them in December, so we're not dragging our feet on this at all. And extending the moratorium out further doesn't mean that I'm saying we're gonna drag our feet, because we're not going to. I think we'll be done before then, but I don't wanna have to do this again, because we can always, when we have the regulations, we'll end the moratorium.
So yeah, I think a commitment to try is fair enough. I do agree. We should try to get this off the next commission's plate if we can. So.
Any further comment? With the motion and a second, roll call. Thank you for your comment, Don. Appreciate that. It's helpful.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bugner.
Yes. Okay. Well, the new county clerk's annual report. She is up. And congratulations.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Commission. Jenna Fager, Deputy County Clerk. And this is my first time doing this, so bear with me. So this was a really busy year for our office. We had, on top of the 2 major elections, we also had the presidential preference primary, which, has not happened in a really long time. We were really busy. We only had 7% for that election, which was a little bit disappointing, but also we had the August 6th election. There was only a 17% turnout. Again, a little bit disappointing. The general was good. We actually had a record number turnout of people who came in and early voted, and we had 10,109 people that came in and advance voted. That is including 2 of our satellite locations that we had, which we had one at Wesley Towers, and we worked with HCC, and they were able to give us Stringer Fine Arts to use as another location. So we wanted to mitigate the lines as much as possible. So it was a big year for that. Also, I wanted to give a thank you to the Sheriff's Office. They did send some patrol out to make sure that the polling locations were secure and safe and being well patrolled, as well as the appraiser's office. Mike, he and a couple of his employees came out and they helped to set up our polling locations at the fairgrounds and also with the tear down. And they typically volunteer to help every election, anything that we need. So I just wanted to give them a big thank you for that. As far as the clerk side, the tax roll has been completed and tax statements have gone out. So everybody should be getting those here pretty shortly.
You could have brought better news than that.
Yeah, sorry about that. For upcoming things, we do have 3 retirements coming up in our office. So on top of Donna retiring, we have Cindy Martin. She'll be retiring from our office in March, and Karen Fisher, she's going to be retiring as well. So we're going to have some new people coming in, so it's going to be a little different. A lot of changes.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for me? No?
Really?
All right, short and sweet.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it, Jenna. Treasurer's annual report. There was information put out on that. She's not feeling well today and didn't make it. So anyway, there's a lot of that nonsense going around. It's not very good. Pretty hard on you. So we'll move past 7D to 7E, make my move proposal.
Commissioners, in the packet, you'll have this was brought up on, I pulled the wrong agenda, but October 9th commission meeting. And there were some questions by the commission, additional information that was requested in an agreement. Patrick drafted an agreement between the chamber and Reno County. Now, the Make My Move agreement would actually be between the chamber and Make My Move, not the county. The county's role in this is to kind of help fund it. The initial, pilot program for 10 new residents to move here, the $90,000 cost. I don't think the request isn't, or recommendation isn't, for the county to pay the full $90,000. It may be $60,000 to kind of do this as an initiative to begin this program and see if it works. I know it's a lot of money for a very limited number of people, but the ROI from Make My Move is significant. And if it works, I think maybe then other people, whether it's other cities, City of Hutchinson, smaller cities, the chamber may have more, I guess, desire to spend more money and to continue to do it in the future, with maybe the county not doing as much proportion in the future, but at least to help get it off the ground from the county and the chamber. The chamber hosted a meeting with mayors that were available last month. Hutchinson, South Hutchinson, Nickerson, Pretty Prairie, and the Highlands were all there. And I know there are some mayors in the audience today.
Well, the administrator for South Hutch was there.
Administrator, not the mayor, yeah, of South Hutchinson. But it seemed everyone supported, all the mayors and staff from the cities supported it. And this would be a good way to start marketing those communities. In addition to possibly bringing new residents, it's a chance for the county to help fund a marketing initiative that will really maybe promote the growth of whether it's Pretty Prairie, Nickerson, Arlington, Hutchinson, South Hutchinson, just Reno County in general. So this brought back before you guys for consideration, and staff's recommendation is to approve an agreement with the chamber to help fund this program.
I've been out to a couple of the meetings, and I was quite enlightened. I was able to go out to the Highlands and present a little bit of this to the board out there, and it turned some wheels from some of the board members to some things even in their community they could do outside of this. But I sat in a Monday night ago in Mayor Ruki's a meeting as well, and they've been preemptive in doing something, if you don't mind me speaking, and I might put you on the spot to tell a little bit about that if you don't mind. Because they have done some things where this would be an enhancement to that, I think. They did an independent study with the Love Where You Live, and then also through the council, or case, yeah, extension. And I sat in on some of that and listened to some of their feedback. They had some people from an outside community come to their community, as I recall. I didn't get to stay for all of it, and critique that on several different comments and stuff. And I found it interesting that a lot of the stuff they kept presenting about that they needed online is going to be developed through this, that will be able to be given to the cities on their websites. And so there's a great deal of value for them communities in this as well. And they've seen an influx of some people moving from out of town too, so it isn't unlikely that this will work necessarily. But I know there's probably other questions that'll arise, but I wanted to give you that feedback that I thought I left there quite encouraged of the things that the communities are already doing, and having called for that meeting of the mayors, they really had a lot of good input. They're aggressively working to change their towns, and they want to see some growth. And so as being a pilot program, I just want to speak to it. It may look like a lot of money, but if it sparks something, there may actually be more involvement from them communities on the backside of this as well too. So I can't speak to that, but I just kind of feel like there could be. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Any further comments before we?
I did participate in one of those programs that happened at Nickerson years ago. And it was very enlightening when you go into the cities to ask these specific questions about the knowledge of the cities, and then the feedback you can give them through K-State. I think this was a Pride program that I was involved with a long time ago. And the feedback is there for the cities to look at, and I think you're absolutely right. It can go in conjunction with what we're doing. And when I looked at this, Randy mentioned it, Mr. Partington mentioned this, is the ROI. And even if I was to cut the expected results from this at 50%, I'm still looking at higher than my 10% per year return that I kind of want to look at when we put out money. And so I'm definitely in favor of trying this program, and I think it works well. And I'll report on my meetings with Fairfield and Pretty Prairie and on the Love Where You Live program, but I think it all fits together really well.
Anyone else? John, I'm sorry, I didn't see your light.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I can see it.
I think we're jumping the gun on this a little bit with just a blank approval here. So when I was looking into this, the ROI is based on 10 years, but the sample contract that we got was for 1 year, and the residency requirements were very minimal. They just had to have an address here. So whether they rented a chair from somebody or rented an apartment or, bought a house or, whatever it was for the requirement was for 1 year in the contract, not 10 years, not 2 years. 1 year, they don't have to register any vehicles here. They just have to claim to live here, was my reading of the contract, which, I'm not a lawyer, but that's kind of what I read into it. And then the basically $9,000 per family, that doesn't include any incentives. And if you look through the Make My Move website, at least every one I looked at, there were thousands of dollars in incentives being offered, plus all of the other things. I talked to Randy about this, and he said that any incentives would be up to the cities. And so I really think before we approve this, we need to have an offer from these cities on what they would be willing to offer, because I kind of, in my mind, I was trying to think of a good example of what to compare this to. So let's say we went to a business and said, hey, we'll give you $90,000 to advertise for Black Friday. And they put out a one-page flyer saying, hey, come to our business. Well, they're probably not going to get an ROI on that, because, people when they're looking for Black Friday, they're looking for deals and things like that. And so not knowing what the cities are going to offer, I think we ought to have that information before we approve this, because, if they're offering $100 in incentives, then, compared to all these other places, it's not really going to move the needle, in my opinion. And then also the people that we're targeting, that pool is drying up. So I've got a list of companies that have ended remote work in the last 2 years, and it's a small list, so. Starbucks, General Motors, Disney, Walmart, Dell, Amazon, Activision, UPS, Meta, IBM, Ubisoft, Roblox, Rockstar, and then there's a couple others that are smaller. But a lot of companies are ending remote work, and an article by Forbes dated October 21st, they spoke with 700 major CEOs, and 70% of them are planning on eliminating or severely reducing remote work in 2025. And so that's our target audience. The target audience is really shrinking, and you've got other companies or other communities that are offering huge incentives. And so, like I said, I'm not necessarily against it. I just think that we need to hear from the cities on what exactly they're planning on offering before we spend this much money, because, if there aren't going to be any incentives, then, in my opinion, this is $90,000 not well spent.
Commissioners, I don't know, and maybe
I was-
Deborah might have some better
I was
answers
going to
than
ask you if you'd
myself.
come speak to a couple of things, and we talked about, you mentioned vehicle registration. You hit on a lot of those things when the mayors were there the other day, and I'd like you to recap some of that if you would, just to.
Sure. Well, first of all, I thought it was a great idea that we worked with the county and to pull all of the mayors together to see their opinion on this. And it was a good meeting. Not all of the mayors across Reno County were there, but it was a good sampling, and some were here at this last meeting, and so they had heard about it as well. We also had a letter from Mayor Fast. He couldn't be here, but he also provided a letter of support for the program. And we learned a lot of things from those communities and the things that they were willing to join together and create unique packages to help people move. We did not get into the specifics about dollar value of those packages, but I think if you look at the creativity of some of the communities that are being successful on Make My Move, the more creative we make it and the more customized we make it, the more successful. There are many communities on the platform that have found grant dollars to help supplement the relocation incentives. Some of the communities in western Kansas that are doing that are working with one of the foundations. And until we know if we're going to move forward with this, we really have not approached any of our local foundations about getting involved. But recall that when we put together the relocation incentive program for Superior Boiler, we did put caveats in place that those individuals, in order to receive a relocation incentive have to prove residency here and also have to prove registration of a vehicle. So we can add any of those local requirements that we want to add in our specific contract to kind of protect that. This is a 2-year agreement, and we also would require, I think one of the things that Randy had suggested that we require is that if they are getting a relocation cash incentive, that in order to receive that they have to remain here for 2 years in order to receive it. The annualized economic output is as good as we are successful at moving the 10 people here. And so even on the annualized basis, it's a good return on investment, but we would require that they sign an agreement that they remain here for at least 2 years. And I think the communities that have said they are supportive are ready to get in, dig in and go to work with us to help make their package compelling.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, but if we were to develop all the audio video stuff we're doing and all the publications and the things that we're doing with this in-house, even if we sub that part of it out, I mean, how much a part of that would this be if we did that, didn't go with this Make My Move and did that? I'm just curious.
We haven't bid out actually doing a video production, but we did bid out some enhancements to our website recently. And we got a bid of about $60,000 for some of that work. And so when you get into the cost for marketing creative materials, it can get costly. We are in the midst right now of standing up a website that will be kind of a platform for talent attraction, and I think this is going to point those people to that. Seth has already been out taking a lot of the photography across Reno County that we can use to kind of enhance the marketability of all the communities on the website. But if we were to do this in another way, just to develop website and video capability, I think you're going to be approaching some of the cost of being on the platform. The benefit of this platform is the reach it gets us that we don't currently have.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, so I guess my thing is you're asking for $90,000. Don't you think it would be a good idea for us to know what we're spending the money on as far as like incentives and stuff from the communities? I mean, like getting some specifics there.
Well, I think the meeting with the mayors was the first step, and I don't think anybody was ready to spend the rest of the time going the next mile to put this together unless we knew there was support from the commission. I think that would be the next meeting we have with them, Commissioner.
Gotcha.
Yes, Commissioner Friesen.
I just want to clarify a few things. Does this apply to any resident in the county, in town, out of town? Like
if they relocate to Reno County, anywhere in Reno County, yes.
Okay.
Now, the platform, I'm not sure if you had another follow-on question to that, but one of the things that we addressed last time was making sure that this was actually meaningful people that were not going to move here anyway. I think that Make My Move can prove that where they are getting the interest from would not be people that are naturally just making a leap over the county line to move to Reno County. And we could actually ask that they verify that in a bona fide statement and to receive their relocation incentives, that they were a bona fide prospect that came through Make My Move and was not looking at Reno County prior to that.
Well, that was part of my next question, but just to close off the first one, like any city, like the smaller cities that are here, they could leverage this
Yes.
as soon as it's ready. And
Yes.
say,
So in fact, the platform would be built in such a way that it would have the main Reno County profile, but then each individual community will also have their own profiles and their packages can be customized. So we would probably have an overarching, you move to anywhere in Reno County, these are the benefits that you would receive, but also every community can get as creative as they want and each of them can have a profile on the platform.
So, yeah, you kind of led into my next question. It was kind of two-part. So I'm a little concerned that we're paying it all up front and not, like, I understand they have costs and maybe we need to pay some up front, but like, to me, I would be more comfortable paying half and then, whatever, a tenth of the other half for each confirmed new resident. And then just reading the contract, it does not define well. I think somewhere it says, residents through the program. I would be a lot more comfortable if there was something like you said, some bona fide statement like this is the reason or the primary reason I'm moving, and then we pay on performance versus paying it all up front, because there's really not a great incentive. Our incentives aren't fully aligned if we pay up front, I guess.
Right, and understand the funds for this is paying to be on the platform and stand up the marketing aspect of it. The dollars that you would be committing to this are not the dollars for the relocation of the individual. So we would have a contract with Make My Move for essentially their marketing platform as a fee for service. The individual contract could have all of those caveats in there that they're making a bona fide move, that they're certifying they'll be here for 2 years. Has to be repaid if they are not here for the 2 years. So that there would be an individual contract, but this contract is for the fee for service for Make My Move as a marketing company.
Well, but I thought they were guaranteeing us 10.
They are.
Okay.
And
But
they feel that they can guarantee that just because they know the success, and that if they're seeing a community not getting as much traction initially, they will, as you know, you can sponsor ads, you can do things to kind of make a community appear on the front page of the platform. So they have some things they can do to trigger more leads coming our way. And that was why they were willing to guarantee the 10 movers.
Well, but there's nothing in here that says we get our money back if it doesn't happen.
Correct.
Can we get that in writing?
I doubt that. I don't think that any company is going to provide the service up front and then say if we aren't successful that they will refund it. They will do the things to help us continue to market ourselves until we are, is the kind of guarantee that they were willing to make.
I don't understand a guarantee that does nothing.
I think that they have enough track record that they just know how the communities that are on their platform are performing, and so now would they be willing to refund a portion? We have not asked them to do that, but we could propose
I might
it.
interrupt just a second, you mind, Commissioner Friesen? One of the big things that finally drew me into this was the video production and the ability to pull that all online, because I started researching that through a couple other avenues, not just in-house with you guys, but with Eagle Media and some others. And you're right, the cost of that to do that, then get it pushed out there and marketed like they're going to do, is the cost of this thing in my estimation. If you said $60,000 to do your deal in-house, this could be much larger than that. And so if we said 60 and you had 30 to market it, that's.
I totally get that, and
I know you do.
I wouldn't be asking the question if the whole presentation wasn't framed around ROI and 10 new, and all of the return that 10 new, this isn't a production agreement. This is an agreement to acquire 10 incrementally new residents to the county, which will provide an ROI, and in return for that, we're paying $90,000. That's the way I'm reading this.
Well, the agreement is actually fee for service for marketing. The result are the 10 families that move here. So it is a marketing agreement in essence. They feel, based on the success of their platform to date, that they can guarantee performance, and the performance becomes those that relocate.
Okay, but what are they guaranteeing?
Well, right now they would be guaranteeing that they are going to stand all of our communities up on their platform and market to all of the corners of the U.S. that they market to then drive traffic that derives interest in Reno County. They then do all the background checks on those individuals, verify that they have a W-2 income from a source that they would be bringing with them. And then at the point where they feel that they are a vetted, bona fide mover, they would introduce them to our team, who would serve as the concierge to take them the rest of the way to sell them on moving to Reno County hands-on. working with real estate firms, doing all the things to introduce them to schools and the attributes of our communities. So it really is the fee for service for Make My Move is the marketing platform, and their track record that they believe is how they are guaranteeing that they can perform 10. We could have even bought more guaranteed movers, but we really wanted to do this as a pilot program and not get too far out in front of our skis.
Well, all I'm asking is that guarantee be in writing.
Okay. They were here last time, and you had the folks in front of you that could have guaranteed that. They didn't want, well, they were kind of beat up for being the salespeople here selling their product, which they were here to sell their product. But I can't, we'll have to go back to them to see if that's something that they can put in writing. And if there's any kind of a guarantee, if this doesn't perform as successfully as they guaranteed, that if there could be some sort of a refund, and that's a question for them. I can't answer that.
Okay.
I was waiting for your line of question to go through because my comment is slightly different about this agreement. But the way I viewed this when I set up the agreement is to try and protect us from, we know we want people that wouldn't move here anyway, and we want them vetted, and we know we want them to stick around. But the way I view it, what I'm interested in is the data that comes from this, because we do a lot of economic development. We get pitched a lot of different things, and I think if the county was the funding partner of this, it'd be really, I have in the agreement that they're going to share all the data that gets from this, and I think it would be really usable in the future to figure out what works from this, what doesn't. I mean, you can imagine if we saw a certain industry or a certain type of person moving here, or a certain part of the county that was being more successful than others, that would be useful for us to know about, and it might be something that would shape future incentives and future things we do. So I don't know if that's useful.
It's just not the way it was sold. That
No,
makes sense.
That's not the way
I
it was
get
sold, but that's something that's why I'm kind of like looking for a spot to just interject that, because that's what I see as a potential use from this. I don't know.
I don't think they would share that data with us, though. Like, my understanding is that they would only share the parties with us after they vet them, right? Because
the chamber will know, because they'll be the point, and they're going to share with us if we do this, who shows up. We'll know. We're going to have pretty good data on what state did they come from, what industry were they part of, what did they like about Reno, and that would be really useful going forward as we design future programs.
right, but only for the 10 people, though. I think they keep that other data back behind because they wouldn't want us going into that data and then going around them.
I wrote the agreement. I want all of the data. So that's the way our agreement with them. So whatever the chamber gets, we're going to get. And again, I think the program's at least 10, right?
At least 10.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was up to 10.
up to 10. And then if we want to continue this, there would be a fee to continue to be on the platform. But I would say that we're going to get data on more than 10, because imagine you have someone that's from East or West Coast looking at the Midwest. They're probably looking at many communities. They get vetted by Make My Move after they've down selected to a few communities that they want to look at. Then we get the information to actually engage in conversation with those individuals. It is likely that not, of 100, not all 100 will move here, but the 10%, let's say, would move here. We would have data on those that get to the point that they're engaging with us. We would have that data because we would be communicating with them.
So I heard you say 2 years. I see it says 12 months in here.
The 12-month contract with Make My Move, we were going to guarantee that, we were going to ask that the relocate commit to at least 2 years in order, or their benefits would be
So is
clawed
that
back.
20 households?
No, that would be 10 households.
So it's 10 households.
10 households.
90,000 a year for 2 years.
I think the agreement with Growth Inc. was a 2-year performance agreement, because this 1-year agreement with Make My Move is just, if we get to the end of the 12 months and we don't have 10 folks that have relocated, we will remain on the platform until we get to the 10. Once we hit the 10, there will be another fee for service to remain on their platform.
Two different concepts, Commissioner. The Make My Move, the agreement with the platform is the 12 months, but if a recipient comes here and gets benefits, the individual who gets the benefits is going to certify that they're here for 24 months, and we'll check out. So
Okay.
That's two different dates on it.
Well, I think we could kind of bridge the gap on the guarantee if we adjusted the terms and termination clause to be specific that we remain on the program until we get our 10 households. And then I think you
I think
have
they
to
would do that.
strike the last sentence there that says either party can terminate in 90 days. Like they can't just independently terminate if they haven't performed.
Yeah, and I'd also like to remind the commission that this is a really rapidly shrinking pool. At-home workers, I mean, that whole industry is going away in today's world because, I mean, quite honestly, larger companies haven't found it profitable to have their people working remote. So, I mean, like I said, Forbes talked to 700 CEOs and that still do remote work, and 70% of them are planning on severely downgrading it or eliminating it altogether, plus all the companies that have done it in 23 and 24. I mean, the pool we're going after is very, very small.
They'll also market to someone else, will they not, if they get on that site and want to move? It's not just stay-at-home workers.
Right. I mean, it was initially formed as a company to attract remote workers to be able to relocate to anywhere. I don't think it's limited to that at this point. It's open to anyone who wants to open the platform.
No, but the ROI numbers are based on somebody coming here with an income, which that would be remote workers. And it's not people coming here to take a job here in Reno County.
Well, I'm not going to argue with the data you've pulled from Forbes, but there is still a place for remote work in our country, and companies even right here in Reno County offer that as a perk of making their company more attractive. So I don't think post-COVID that remote work is going away entirely. I think there's still a place for it, and it still is happening. It may be to a less degree. Some of the major tech companies may be pulling back from it to pull people back into offices that have been sitting vacant, but I still think there's a place for it, and they have to verify it. They will provide bona fide proof of income in order to then engage with us. So.
Yeah, and I think Daniel actually echoed my concerns better than I did. You know, as far as like, you know, I mean, the 90-day termination clause was a big deal. You know, hey, Reno County isn't getting any traction. Let's just terminate the agreement so they're not on the website anymore, or you know, I mean, things like that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, if there were some guarantees, but I don't think they're willing to do that.
I think probably the 90-day termination agreement was more to benefit us than them. If you want that stricken, I'm sure they would strike that or make it a 2-year termination agreement. I think there's very much flexibility there. The team who was here at the October 9th meeting is very interested in working with us, and they've stayed engaged with us since, and I think they genuinely would like to earn our business, and if we need to have some flexibility in those terms, I'm sure they're open to that.
I find it somewhat innovative, and I find it a little bit refreshing to try something different. When I came to office, I wanted to look at different avenues to do stuff, and I think we've done that in a couple of areas. We haven't necessarily had the results we'd anticipated or hoped. Maybe even with Superior Holdings, they haven't quite landed as many people as we'd hoped, and so we're not, and the money's certainly there to spend. I'm not trying to persuade anybody with that, but I've been looking for something that's a new and innovative way in my mind to do to try to attract people here. And I very much agree with Patrick in the fact that this is going to give us some vital input and feedback that even Deborah can use and the county can to look at ways to market. And if it doesn't work or it lands with people and we decide not to go forward, we have some ideas out of this maybe to do something different to begin to market ourselves, because we need to continue to grow. We really do. And I don't think it's our job to push people here, but then again, we need to be attractive to people. I've said it before, I drive down the highway and I see attractive signs that tell you ought to be a part of this community. And I don't think I see that all over Reno County. And this may be a way to push that forward. So people do travel through here on certain roads, and I look at that as roads of opportunity sometimes more than roads to an exit. So we need to look at it in maybe a different way. So that's my spiel. I'll be quiet.
I didn't really look at this as dependent upon work from home. I took it as much as being able to promote our communities for all kinds of workers, qualified workers. That's the way I looked at it. I didn't look at it just from one standpoint. And I know there was a lot of talk about the work from home, but I didn't look at it from that direction. I looked at it as what our community can find out on how we can improve the community, as well as showing off our communities. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but this is where I see the whole project is going, as to get out there. You see all kinds of things out there and if you can get it concentrated that will vet as well as promote, and these companies that want qualified personnel in certain areas have an opportunity here. The only suggestion I came away with from the Love Where You Live, and when I attended the one in Hutchinson that I did, is there seemed to be, I was going to bring this up later, but since we're talking about it, it could be, go along with this program, is have a central place, a central people that new people thinking about moving in can go to. It seemed like from the input I received from the meeting there at the museum was they didn't need to go to 5 different places to find out a community. They needed to go to one place that could direct them to all the things that you just mentioned: the real estate, churches, rec opportunities, shopping. One place that they could go to rather than spend their time going to 3 or 4 different places. But that's the way I looked at it, was just to get people that were qualified to do the job that are needed here.
I got my button pushed. I got my button pushed.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bogner, would you like to comment? I missed your button.
Maybe it's not working.
Maybe not.
You know me in IT. But my thought here is, and I want to get a couple things clear in my mind before you exit the podium. I know people have personally come up to me several times in the last year that have moved here, and their businesses are actually over the internet. But several of them, their businesses also need a warehouse or whatever. And my thought is, if we could get them interested, and they're going to these smaller communities that have empty buildings, it's cheap space, that they're, in their mind, it's cheap space, and they can ship from anywhere in the United States. And of course, here we're in the middle, that helps a little bit. I can see those kind of benefits to these smaller towns. And this covers all of Reno County and not just a few places, which I think is important. But in the conversation here, we are hiring them to market our county for this $90,000. Now, did I catch that right? The next thing is an individual contract with whatever individual's coming.
So
or did I misunderstand?
I think we had asked Make My Move to provide an example of what another community had used for the person or families that are relocating to sign an agreement. And I think we're trying to layer on some additional requirements for that person relocating to document that they are bona fide moving into Reno County as a taxpayer, registering vehicles, either purchasing or renting real estate, and that they do that for 2 years, or there's a clawback in place. So now these dollars are not the dollars that are paying that individual some sort of a relocation incentive. We'll still put those together.
Well,
but
that's what I'm getting at. This is the first 90,000.
this is to get us on the platform, yes.
This has nothing to do with once the people get here and making a deal with them.
Correct.
So we're talking about 90 plus. Any idea what these individual contracts will cost and who's going to pay that? We are committing to getting on the platform. who's committing to the dollars to the individual in this later contract? Are we, in doing this, also committing to the others? And that's an unknown cost, apparently.
That is up to each community how they want to creatively market themselves. There's nothing that says that we have to put a relocation incentive as part of the package. We could make it so compelling to move here because it's a great place and we're going to customize individual things. Like the mayor of Arlington said the other day, he'll help them move in. He'll provide gift cards at City Hall for a variety of ways that they can experience the great things to do here. So, yeah.
He said he would not help them move out.
True. Yes. Yes. And so each community has a bit of work to do in this too. I mean, they need to have some skin in the game to get their community on the platform in a compelling way, but that is not what this agreement is. This agreement is the first step.
And Don,
real
quick.
I was just wanting to
not the
make
county.
sure we're not committing to, more dollars than this
The
90.
county's not. Once the 90,000, the initial fee, the rest is up to communities and setting that up, not coming back for county money.
Well, I just wanted to get that clear in my head. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, guys, my deal is I think we're jumping the gun here. Communities can put these incentives together today without a Make My Move platform. They can put it on their Facebook and stuff. And so I'd just like to see what some of them are doing. And then I think there were some contracts or questions about the contract that I think it would be best for us to have up front before we vote. And so I'm not saying no, I'm just saying that we need more information on what, what exactly our investment is buying.
If we decided to move this forward or don't, could we put those contingent into that? If you can make those happen, if we move this forward, that it will go through, or
Yeah, I
Kill
did
it.
the termination
Come
thing
back.
is a good. Sorry,
No,
I'm
you're
not
fine.
I'm not very patient sometimes. The chamber will contract with Make My Move. We contract with the chamber. So I have made an adjustment, and so the termination wasn't on my mind because that's not the contract I was focused on. But I added a provision to our agreement while we're talking that would require the chamber to update their agreement to make sure that the termination for the Make My Move contract would be either when the chamber terminates it, because it'd be up to them, or when the program has reached at least 10 people. So that Make My Move would be on the hook for it until they get to the 10, as they've guaranteed, and that then the chamber, though, if they wanted out of it, they could get out of it. So I've made that adjustment while we talked, which I hope that was what I was hearing the concern was, if I understood it correctly. I could have just said yes to your answer.
Well, I mean, and there's still
Well,
the
we wouldn't
resident
expect
stuff. I
that.
mean, there were a lot of things that,
Or you guys can- if you're tabling it, then you can give me some more direction, of course.
And just to kind of, I think what's being recommended here is really the agreement with the chamber to help finance this initiative. The other contracts will really be between the chamber and Make My Move, because they'll hold the cards on that. We can make recommendations to the chamber, and they can work with their legal counsel to put this stuff in, but the agreement with Make My Move is actually with the chamber.
right?
The county is being asked to help finance a portion of this agreement or proposal initiative. And so the agreement that's recommended by staff for you guys is with the chamber. That's why some of the initiatives, Commissioner Weitzel, until there's an agreement and we know if it's going forward, the chamber knows if it's going forward, like Deborah said, the cities aren't spending all the time doing this, not knowing if it's going to happen because they don't have the money.
Yeah,
to
and see,
put this
I would
out.
push back against that because just because we're not on that platform doesn't mean they can't offer incentives. And if this is something they're thinking about doing, then why not have them do it regardless of whether we get on this platform? But then we would kind of have an idea of what they're willing to offer.
I will give you another example. This is not the only thing we're doing to try to relocate people here, and we have websites and platforms to market Reno County today. Yes, there are other things afoot that I'll point out. A few weeks ago, we were approached by the Hutch Regional CEO about a way to bring some physicians to look at Reno County as a place to move to go to work for the medical system. And we said, yes, let's talk about what that would look like. He had a short list, well, it was a pretty long list of doctors that he was courting, and wanted to be able to coordinate a weekend experience for them here in Reno County. And so we have worked weekly, multiple meetings a week sometimes, my team has, to coordinate the travel for about 20 families that will be visiting over December 6th through the 8th. They will arrive at various times on that Friday, some via plane, some via car, and they're going to go have a multicultural dinner experience at the CEO's home. On Saturday, they have some professional training at the Cosmosphere, and then their families are going to experience Cosmo Kids. They're going to get some free time in the afternoon to explore, and some take naps, but some explore Reno County. And then at 4 p.m., we're hosting a reception that you all have been invited to with their families from 4 to 6 at Roma's in downtown Hutch. And then they'll have some seating so they can experience the Light Up Hutch Parade on December 7th. On the 8th, they have, they'll be able to visit churches across the community and then have a brunch at Prairie Dunes. We have some babysitting lined up for them at Prairie Dunes that day. And then they have a little bit more customized training with the hospital, but the hospital is fully funding that. I say the hospital. The Hospital Foundation has a nonprofit arm that is dedicating dollars, and right now I think just the travel costs alone are upwards of $50,000 to bring about, I think it's about 15 families that have committed. Katie's been working on their scheduling. And so that's just another way that companies are getting involved in the recruitment effort and putting skin in the game. This would just be another way. I mean, you're going to spend money to attract people to move to your community one way or another. And so I know just some of the flights alone are costing about $50,000 to bring. It's about 60 people that we're bringing to the community on that weekend.
And to kind of add what this is, that launched from what we do at the Chamber, which is called Backstage Pass Tours. If you were at our annual dinner, you may have heard Sarah Fankhauser mention that there is a candidate for DCI that came in, and purely from the Backstage Pass Tour, we were able to give her, flipped their decision on a potential to come here. Now they're still working with them, but that put a big piece of what makes our community great to them was that tour that I gave over an hour and a half, 2 hours over the community of Hutchinson, and when time allows outside the bounds of Hutchinson, specifically if they're looking for different types of living in different school districts, we customize those. This is a way for us to do that without utilizing our people. This is a preview of a Backstage Pass as well. This is a big part of what that is, and so that's where the hospital piece came from, as well as we do Backstage Passes for them. This Taste of Hutchinson weekend is like a Backstage Pass on steroids with a few more logistics than we ever expected, but this all plays together in the same way. So I just want to let you guys know this is how those pieces do all come together, because there's only enough of us to show off the communities when we can.
And can you state your name and position for the record?
Katie Fallon, Economic Development Project Manager, new resident at 2407A Old Ox Road.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to move this to a motion because we've about hounded it to death, and we'll figure out where it's going to go. So do we have a motion?
I would move that Reno County enter into a contract with Hutch Reno County Chamber as presented by staff with the Make My Move for marketing Reno County.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bogner seconds.
Could we just ask that, I appreciate Patrick making some live updates. Could we ask that bona fide resident also be defined in the contract?
Yeah, but I might have to think about how to define, I think I know how to define
It
it.
just needs to come through the program, like in some legitimate way can be documented.
I think that's one of the things I hesitated, was just trying to, how rigidity versus, sometimes it's good to be a little flexible, but we do not, but I think
Isn't
you're
that
right.
why you use the word bona fide? I don't know.
Well, and that was why I thought we should wait, because it's different voting on, hey, put some of this in the contract versus actually being able to read the contract and then voting on that, because we're voting on a future contract that we haven't seen.
Well, I was just wondering if the motion and second would be okay with that change for the bona fide.
I'm trying to figure out how bona fide fits into the marketing aspect, versus the individual contract when people come. I'm trying to figure out where that should be at, Commissioner Freed. Should it be in the individual agreement?
It's part of the requirement for 10, so 10 bona fide new residents, I think is
Well,
all.
I think Deborah spoke to that could happen, and in fact, we'll provide that, did you not?
And I think where this needs added is this is agreement that you're signing is an agreement between you and the chamber. We'll have a subsequent agreement with Make My Move. But the agreement between you and the chamber can have language that I think Patrick is adding to define how we will document that these are bona fide new residents. And it's a form much like we used for the Superior Boiler relocation agreement, that subsequent to that, we put together a form that their employee that was relocating had to sign to document and provide proof of residency. And there were a few ways that they could provide proof of residency. And we can add to it that they document the residence, their utility bill, as well as registering a vehicle if they own, personal property, that it be registered here. Some of those ways can be added to document bona fide.
Yeah, I understand there's a residency proof requirement. I'm asking just that there's proof that it came through the program and that they're a resident.
Okay, so that they have to sign a statement certifying that they are moving as a result of learning about Reno County through the Make My Move platform.
Yeah.
Can you add that, Patrick?
Is that okay with the motion and second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion and second, okay.
Yeah, and I'll say too, Deborah, I know I beat you up a lot, but I really do think you do a great job. You've 100% changed my opinion of the chamber since I've gotten on this board, and so I do appreciate the job you do and all the stuff you're doing for our community.
Well, thank you very much. It's perfectly fine to have scrutiny over these. We're trying a lot of new things, and the questions are all fair questions, so it's all part of the process.
I'm gonna call for a roll call. Any further comments? If not, go ahead.
Ready? Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
No.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes. Motion passes 4-1. See, I put the 1 in there this time. I didn't zero you out.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate being
commissioners.
recognized by the chair.
Thank you for your patience with us, Deborah. Staff, I appreciate it. 7F, consider resolution merging Reno County Fire Districts 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Commissioner?
Chairman?
Yes. Did I have something?
Clarification for Cindy on the minutes. What was the dollar amount? Was it the 90,000 or was it up to? Or was this?
Well, you'd said 60.
I mentioned 60. It was blank in the agreement. So originally it was 90,000. I've recommended at least 60.
At least
so
60.
I wanted to verify what you voted on.
Well, he made the motion.
Okay.
Is,
I'll make
We
Is that
probably
gonna
need
be-
a separate motion, yeah.
I'll make a separate.
I would
motion.
suggest make a
I'll
sec-
make a separate
let's do
motion.
that.
I would suggest
Sorry,
just a second.
That's
Yeah.
what I was getting ready to say.
well, is that agreeable to the
Just make a
chamber?
motion to clarify your motion.
Before we make a motion, is that agreeable to the chamber so we know where we're at with that? We don't want to make a failed program right off the get-go.
I will just point out that our annual allocation from Reno County for operating budget is $50,000 a year, and we appreciate these creative ways that you guys are trying to enhance then the marketing that we're doing. I would appreciate every dollar that you can contribute to this if you would consider it. Otherwise, we will raise money from the private sector, or it will take most of the operating budget to do the other things that we do in the coming year. But I am working on our specific budget, and this will obviously come out of the 2025 operating budget. So I'll let you debate the dollar amount, but
We do have the money in our
I know
economic
we've got the
development
money
fund
to do
for
it, so.
any amount you choose.
I would move that the Reno County Commission allocate up to $90,000 to assist in funding the Make My Move program for Reno County.
I'll second that. Further comment? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
No.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes. That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you again.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome, yeah. Sorry, we skipped over that. Well, let's go to 7F now. Consider a resolution merging Reno County Fire Districts 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, Reno County Kingman Joint Fire District 1, and Reno Harvey County Joint Fire Districts 2 into Reno County Fire District 1, effective January 1, 2026. Adam, would you like
Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Weiss, our Emergency Management Director. This is a accumulation of years worth of work for us. So we go all the way back to 2017 and 2018 with the board that was the other Board of County Commissioners that was elected at that point in time. And we started discussing the autonomy of fire districts. We found memorandums and documents that discuss the autonomy and concerns of the management of the fire districts that dated all the way back to the 80s when we started digging into things. And with support of the Board of County Commissioners, we hired 5 Bugle Training and Consulting in 2019 to conduct an analysis of what the current fire districts are and recommend some improvements and what could be made. Due to the COVID pandemic, that study was delayed just a little bit, and it was conducted between 2020 and 2021, and it was finally presented on May 7th, 2021 to the board with 5 Bugle's findings. At that time, the chiefs of that group came back and said, we're going to do all these things, we're going to improve the fire service, and there was very limited improvements that were made over the next year. In March of 2022, the Board of County Commissioners voted to hire a fire county administrator, working towards improvements in training, policies, procedures, and standardization. He started making those improvements, and then in August 2023, we had several options back in front of the fire chiefs as well as the commission on how to improve service to the community as a whole. So the option 1 we presented to the fire chiefs, and they ultimately approved at that 2023 date before it was taken to the commission, was to merge fire districts into one, hire a operations level chief to help with the fire districts, and be able to pay some of the firefighters who currently provide service on our high fire danger days to sit at the station at about 4,000 hours a year. So after we had a study session, the direction of the commission was to go out and explore more of that option 1 with each of the fire districts. We held 7 different meetings, including all the firefighters in their fire districts, excluding District 6 and 7. We did that one together. So we had 7 total meetings. Those meetings were long. Some of them were 3 and 4 hours long. And we did a memorandum of record kind of documenting what was talked about, some of the concerns. So moving forward, what are our goals for the merging of the fire districts? The merging of the fire districts, our first goal would be have it in place in January 1, 2026. And why is it January 1, 2026? We have a lot of work leading up to that. Currently, they're their own special taxing districts, which means they all have separate budgets. They all have their own special equipment funds, and be able to establish a zero-based budget for one fire district is going to be a big lift for 2025. Another thing that we need to focus on is increasing service to everyone while limiting the county's liability. So it shouldn't matter if we have one fire district, it shouldn't matter what community you live in, whether it's Buhler or Turon, you should get the same fire response that everyone is expecting in the county. CAD response is another big thing, so response plans in the CAD. So when you call 911, what happens is the computer goes through a process and it recommends units. So we will have to update every single CAD response to every single call type to make sure the correct piece of apparatus is dispatched to a fire, to any sort of emergent response. We talked about special equipment funds. There's a big concern from the fire districts about their current special equipment funds. Some of them look pretty healthy on paper. Our biggest one is just over $600,000. And while that looks healthy on paper, they have a new fire engine that has been ordered, and that's over $470,000. None of the fire districts have excess money. All of them need equipment. Those special equipment funds are really not what we think they are. So what we brought to the chiefs was maybe we take 10% out of their special equipment funds that they have left, put that into new Fire District 1 special equipment funds, and then we need to spend down what they have on equipment. Another concern we heard on is what's the fire district going to be named? And what we came up with was Reno County Fire District 1. It makes it clear there'd be a Fire District 1 in the county, and then Hutch Fire runs Fire District 2. But just because there's one fire district doesn't mean we need to take away the individuality of the districts. It doesn't mean that we need to take away that community pride. Community pride is very important to our volunteers. It's very important to the fire service. So we want them to have their towns listed on their vehicles, their towns listed on the back of their personal protective equipment. That needs to stay. Another concern we heard of was the Firefighter Relief Association. And there were some concerns that there would be some loss from the firefighters. So digging into the FRA, one district made it very clear that there's a clear line between what the county can tell the FRA to do and what the FRA actually does. And that's accurate. So looking at a new FRA, they would have to set their own board, they'd have to set their own policies that's in line with the FRA rules and regulations. And what it would come down to is their annuities. They would have to have the 75%, they would have to be available for 75% of the calls over 20 years to be able to get the payout. We can go back and spot check some of the payrolls to see if that member qualifies, but ultimately it's going to be up to the chief and that board if that member would qualify or not. Talking with the chiefs group about this, who is much more knowledgeable about the FRAs than I am, and speaking with Patrick about it, the chiefs group believes that the firefighters will actually benefit from a bigger pool and a larger FRA than what the current situation is. So this plan that we have before you today is to improve service across the county. It's not to benefit my office. My office sees absolutely no benefit of this. We don't gain anything out of it. Frankly, we have about 7 years worth of work sitting in front of you, and we're going to have more work coming up between the CAD changes and the budgetary changes. The Board of County Commissioners represent every single corner of the county as it currently stands. We have fire chiefs in every single community of the county. Those fire chiefs need to stay. Those fire chiefs need to be relied on as our steering committee, as we currently use them for. And if it becomes a time where there's not a qualified chief to take the place of an outgoing chief, there still needs to be someone that represents that community, someone who's on the fire district, and maybe that person's called a station captain. But we need someone in a leadership role that's still going to accurately represent their community. Currently, we utilize the chiefs in the steering committee. And some recent meetings I've had, we've realized that they're putting a lot of the changes that are happening at the county fire districts on the county, when really it's the fire chiefs that are implementing these changes and asking for the changes. So some of the things that the chiefs have implemented are the Firefighter 1 standard. They're requiring every new firefighter to go through this Firefighter 1 training, and Lexipool training. Lexipools are policies and procedures. The chiefs recently set a hard date on when they want everyone to follow these Lexipool policies and sign off on it. They've recently implemented officer training, quarterly trainings. They come up with ideas on how to train their firefighters quarterly, and all we do is put that together for them. So we want to continue to utilize that core group of chiefs or future chiefs as the steering committee for the process here. With change, we're always going to have some upset firefighters. We're always going to have upset people. Change is not easy on anyone, and we understand that. We're sympathetic to it. There's roughly 160 firefighters in the county currently, and by estimation, I would say probably about 10% of them are unhappy with the change. There's some that are currently unhappy with the system, and what it boils down to is we're never going to be able to please anyone, but we have to do what's best for our community and best for our citizens. Some of our smaller districts feel like their few vocal members or naysayers have been the voice for their department, and they're unhappy with that because they feel like they want to be sure they're not wasting their time meeting with us and supporting a plan that's ultimately not going to be supported because of a few naysayers. One district, we had several complaints come out of one district, and when we talked to their chief and assistant chief, We gave them an option. If you guys don't want to merge or you don't want to improve the system, would you like to go out on your own? Would you like the rest of the county to merge together and you run your own fire district? And we've been told that they don't think they can handle the workload, and they absolutely do not want to be out on their own. They want to be a part of the larger system. So that was kind of eye-opening for us too, where when we actually give them the option, do you want to do this or not, they still choose to be a part of the overall system. Like we talked about, none of the fire districts are financially stable as far as equipment goes, and that's nothing that's happened recently. I mean, that's been a long process over years and years and years, 40, 50 years, that we've been trying to keep the mill levies low and the budgets low so that their equipment has not been replaced in a timely fashion. So our goal moving forward would be to meet the NFPA standards by 2040. We realize that's a lofty goal and kind of a moving target because the NFPA standards are constantly moving, especially when it's towards equipment. But we have to have goals to work for, and we have to show that we're making some improvements. Moving equipment was another thing that brought up some concern. So our firefighters have spent a lot of time outfitting their vehicles. Some of them are building them themselves. They spent a lot of time. There's a lot of community pride that goes into their apparatus, into their vehicles. There's concern that if they're one district, we're just going to take that piece of equipment and move it to a different district. I'm here to tell you that's not going to happen. The pieces of apparatus that are currently in the community, they will stay there and they won't move as long as their service life is still there and good in that community. Recently, between two fire districts, we had a fire district that replaced a fire engine because of it was older than what their standard is or what the NFPA standard is, and they could afford to purchase a new fire engine. Well, there's another district in the county that could use that fire engine. It was a lot better than what they had, but they couldn't afford to purchase a new one. So we were able to transfer money with approval of the board to buy that piece of apparatus for the smaller district from the larger district, and we made both communities whole. And the idea is if we're one countywide fire district, you can move that older piece of equipment that's no longer serviceable for one community into another one and replace an older piece of equipment. So we took all this to the fire chiefs meeting at the first Wednesday of the month. Commissioner Parks was there, and I wanted to tell you some of the comments that we received at those meetings. One of the fire districts said they currently have 80 to 85% of the members who support the change, and they believe it'll be 90% if it's done correctly. Another district stated their firefighters were on board when it was first presented, but the longer it drags out, the more they seem to question it. However, training has been an improvement, and option one has been building for years. One district stated members are on board, but it's been a struggle getting past some of the silence. Everyone seems to be pulling the rope in the same direction. The recent change has been obvious, and working together has made progress. We should keep moving towards option one. One district stated they did not see a big change from what we're currently doing, what we're currently working on. One district said their members are all on board. We made a lot of progress since this has started. Even option two, which is status quo, what we're currently doing, we would continue to have improvements. Another district said they're supportive of the consolidation, and the district could benefit from good equipment. Not necessarily new equipment, but good equipment. They're currently working well with other districts, and that's been a really positive change for them in the past couple of years. They now feel like they could work together with any district, and also mentioned that training has improved. Another district said they had not heard anything negative about the merger, but have heard complaints about the Lexipol policies and accountability that were implemented by the Chiefs group. Another chief said status quo is not what we had 3 years ago, but everyone's still in favor of moving forward with option one. Another district said they're all in favor of option one, and then one chief spoke about the increase in service. Even though there could be some pain points, the ones that complain are most often the ones who don't show up. The bigger picture is our citizens, our customers. We just want to help them in the time of need. So at that meeting, we reiterated that community pride is still important between the districts. We did understand that there's going to be some upset firefighters, but we feel like this is what's best for the community. And ultimately, I asked the chiefs if they would like to make a motion one way or the other. I said, I will take to the commission whatever the fire districts want. And ultimately, one chief made a motion to support option one and take it to the commission. All the chiefs voted on it, and everyone was unanimously in favor to choose option one and present option one to you. So options, we would still like option one, provide additional funding with the goal of meeting NFPA standards by 2040, with Reno County Fire District 1 being one district. Again, we know that's a moving target and a lofty goal. And we would also like to, after spending years on this and thousands of hours, is not look at this again until there is a volunteer decline in the community and we have to start moving in a different direction. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Just a minute, I'm going to comment real quick, Daniel, before you do. I was at that meeting, and I will, for those that are here that are part of or part of your volunteer fire department, there was a lot of conversation and there was concerns. I will express that. Evan and I visited separately from that meeting so that there's no misconception about what we talked about. The lines of communication need to be more open. I'm going to state that publicly, and Adam was open to that as well. And I did hear him discuss these things back and forth, and they unanimously voted for that. But I will say of Adam that Adam opened it up to, if they wanted to kill the whole project that night, they could do it. And there wasn't a lot of hesitation from the chiefs. And I know I've heard a lot of feedback in the communities, but I'll just say this: one of the primary things, and Adam, you stated that, I appreciate you doing it, is this Lexipool. It needs to have a longer time for people to do, and it needs to be flexible for some people that don't do the computer thing. And so it's a lot of that stuff in there, from my understanding, you probably need to massage because it doesn't apply to volunteers, so it needs to go away. So that's something I think you need to look at in the future. If it doesn't apply to volunteers, it didn't need to be so rigid. Safety is absolutely a concern in my mind, but if it's stuff that is so rigid it's running people off, really please look at it. I'm asking you to do that and work with those individuals and be open to the lines of communication, not just the way it's stated in this Lexipool, because they don't feel like they're being heard, a lot of them.
So I'll touch a little bit on Lexipool. We have heard some complaints about the Lexipool policies, and a lot of stuff in there that they don't feel like applies to them actually covers state and federal statute that's going to protect our liabilities.
That's why I'm asking.
It's stuff that has to be in there, unfortunately.
That's why I'm asking.
The timeline that was set by the Chiefs group was a year. They had a year to complete the policies. And in the recent meetings I've asked, what's a reasonable time frame? And it seems like some of our firefighters feel like they had to complete these in 2 weeks, because the response I got is 12 months to 15 months is a reasonable timeline to get it all done. So I think that there is some communication issues between us and the fire districts, or between the chiefs and the fire districts, or simply firefighters not showing up to the meetings and getting an accurate story of what's going on. But I do think that
I'm asking you to be open to communicate that.
Absolutely.
You yourself personally.
And what we've told them is, if there's an issue with your fire districts, come back and adjust. The chiefs need to adjust the timeline and how far out that needs to go.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mr. Chair, given the substantial amount of work from staff and the recommendation, and understanding that their effort is to further the efficiency of our tax and fire operations, and the fact that the chiefs were unanimous in support of this recommendation, I'd make a motion to approve as recommended by staff.
Commissioner Friesen makes a motion to approve that recommended by staff. Do we have a second to that?
I would second it.
Commissioner Hurst? Further comments?
I do have a question or two. Am I reading in this correctly? And maybe I'm not. Will a fire district then hire another person to be director or whatever title?
Ideally, we'd like an operations level chief in 2026. And what that looks like to us is we have way more work than what I have staff. I mean, it's fairly common that we're working till 10 o'clock at night to get things accomplished for the fire districts. And I have a whole nother piece of my job, the emergency management side, that gets ignored a lot of times because we don't have the staff to do it. So we would like to hire an operations level person that would work basically in line with the fire chiefs, not anyone over them, but be a peer with the fire chiefs, to be a full-time member of the emergency management office to help with some of those fire functions. That being said, a budget would get presented to the Board of County Commissioners in 2025. We would ask for that position, but it would be up for debate at that time.
Well, and the reason I asked this is just not too long ago, we hired an additional person in the emergency management. Travis is here. But that was a concern of mine when it comes to the use of dollars. And I'm sorry you have to work that late, but the other thing is, why another command vehicle?
If we hire another position, that position will need a vehicle.
How many vehicles do you have in the emergency right now?
We have 3, and then we have a grant-funded vehicle that can't be used daily.
When it comes to budget, I think you need to seriously look at that, about why and where will be located, and I think that's something I need to know. I don't know. I think we all need to know that. And it seems like so many times that and I'm glad we're not just consolidating. I'm glad that word is out of there. But I think we just need a little more information when it comes to time for budget time, okay? Because I am concerned with having to spend additional money for personnel as well as additional money for vehicles. Just because you buy a vehicle, that's not the end of the cost, as you know. That's, is the 8.29 that is in this contract, is that for all personnel?
So these are
presently, okay.
These are rough numbers, so those are based off of 2023 numbers.
All volunteers and the total.
That's including the 4,000 hours and an operations level person.
I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to verify that.
So we would still be targeting that same frame. Is what we're looking
Understand
at.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anyone else?
Yeah, how does this affect our commitment to Fire Station 2, the joint venture that we've got with the city?
Fire District 2, I thought you were going to ask about the ones we're getting ready to build.
So Fire District 2 is contracted by the City of Hutch. This does not impact the City of Hutch or Fire District 2 at all. Where Fire District 2 and the county can see benefit back and forth is when we're building those response plans. We'll include Fire District 2 in those response plans. So we'll be running in tandem with District 2 with more apparatus and more fire personnel. So everyone should see an increase.
Anyone else? Not?
I would just commend I've been out and toured a lot of the fire districts. I'd commend all the firefighters, volunteers, for all the work they do on their equipment. And the efficiency, just because I'm hollering about additional cost, doesn't mean I don't appreciate the efficiency of the volunteer fire departments. I wish there was another fire department around Reno County that was even halfway as efficient as usual with the use of equipment and the maintenance and the purchasing.
Seeing no other comments, anybody want to make a motion? Or we do have a motion on the table already in a second, that's right. All right, roll call. Forgot where we was at.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
No.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for their work on that. I know that there's some ways to go on it. It's going to take some work yet, and please be open to the feedback. At this time, I'll take a 5-minute recess. I think we're going to go ahead and reconvene this meeting and move it right along here if we can. Yeah, I need Peggy's gavel. I need your gavel. No. Boy, that was quick.
She
Thank
came
you.
prepared.
Appreciate that.
Oh, I thought you had it handy or maybe. In your-
Symbolically, maybe we just lay it up here or something like that. I won't bang it on the desk. So. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Item 6B, we moved down to 7G, and 6B was to be discussed, Resolution 2024, whatever number it is, reestablishing the Economic Development Reserve Fund. And Commissioner Whitesell, you take the lead on this because you wanted that moved.
Oh, yeah, no, I think my stance on this has been pretty clear since the beginning, but I am in the minority on the commission, so I just wanted the chance to vote no on these items.
Well, it's a separate deal now, so anybody other comments on this particular one, which would be 7G? Not, they make a motion to pass this resolution. You got a number for that, Cindy? 2020-37.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hurst. Roll call.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes.
Commissioner Whitesell,
No.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes.
All right. 6C, which is now 6 or 7H, I think it would be, Resolution 2024-38.
Yes.
Authorizing transfer of funds to Economic Development Reserve Fund. Would you like to state your piece?
Same deal here.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Further comment? Not? Roll call?
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitesell,
No.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes.
And 6M moved down to 7I, which is Resolution 2024. Now I'm really picking your brain. You got to count, don't you? Got her shoes off over there. 48. Adopting Homeland Security Region G Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Yeah, I mean, guys, we brought this up in another meeting, but I really think we need to rework this for Reno County. There's a lot of language in here that is just not in our best interest. Can you move to number 2.2 on that? And this is just an example. I wanted to be succinct because I know we already had this discussion, but emphasizes the equitable distribution of resources, opportunities, and benefits among particularly with those who have been historically marginalized or disadvantaged. I mean, this is saying that we plan to dole out dollars based on race, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, gender identity. And this is just one example. When I went through this, I mean, there's hundreds of examples of this sort of thing. Maybe not hundreds, but dozens of examples of this sort of thing. And so, I mean, especially with the current administration and the landslide election, I think looking at some of these policies and just not blindly approving them would be a better thing. And I'd be happy to go through this. I actually did a lot of it, but go through and say, with language I think we ought to strike from the agreement. I don't think it's an all or nothing deal. I think we could opt out and do our own thing. So that's just my thought.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes, I want to get the counselor's opinion. See if my thinking is okay here. I know what John's after, but the thing of it is, if I read this correctly, to get help when we need it in a disaster, we've got to have an approved plan in place and be a part of it. Otherwise, we are truly on our own, like John says, and we're not going to get help from further up. And anything done in the federal and state is going to contain that kind of language that John's opposed to. I guess nationally, if you read the papers, they recently had a problem with a director that if you had the wrong political signs in your yard, your place got bypassed. That person was fired. If it gets to that point, I don't care what person it is, they need help. And there shouldn't be discrimination on whether they get help or not, whether we agree with their lifestyle or whatever it might be. So I'm thinking, if I'm thinking right, we need to have this in place to get federal funds to help us in an emergency. I'm thinking that's part of the package, and there isn't much you can do about it if you're going to ask for that help.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I discussed with Adam before this meeting, and I think the answer is yes. I mean, and also to go on our own, we would have, this is part of a regional plan, so the part of the process is for several counties to adopt an identical plan and then be in line for federal aid. I understand some of what Commissioner Weitzel's concerns are. I don't think anyone can currently point to a situation where a county like ours has been damaged by some of that language, but you know, if it ever came up where the federal government was pressuring us in ways we didn't think appropriate, we would do everything we could to use our funds properly in our rebuild. But I think the most important thing is, you know, if you want the carrot to be eligible for a lot of the grants that we're going to need to fund these fire protection services and things, we're going to need to adopt something very similar, not something similar, we have to adopt this. Adam, is that correct as you understand it?
Yeah, that's correct as I understand it. And just to be clear, these mitigation dollars that we're speaking of, these grant dollars we speak of, come on the heels of an emergency that give us money to prepare for the next one or prevent the next one. One of the ones that we applied for was a community wildfire preparedness grant, which we put a plan together for the community so it would qualify us for future grant dollars.
Right, but we just have to have a plan in place, not necessarily this plan, right?
I'll tell you, my staff does not have time to create another plan. This was, we started this in August of 2023, and to get 29 different applicants from the county, it was hard for us. We sent it out to every city. We did several posts. We did mailers to the ones who didn't respond, and we had to gather all the data and then send that to a contractor to put together. So I would say if we don't adopt this one, my staff doesn't have time to create another one before our current plan expires.
I mean, the county was recently had our Title VI audit from the state, which is just a general non-discrimination audit. And we passed it, of course, because we have policies like this one in place. If we don't have these things in writing, it does affect us, and people do check on us to have them. So it is important, in my opinion.
Commissioner Friesen.
No, I was going to move here. I mean, I think it's important that we treat people equally. I get the point of, like, perhaps there are new definitions that that we don't agree with on how we treat people equally, but I don't read that in here. That I don't read that risk. It's pretty open, and it just says, hey, we're gonna treat people equally. So I would rely on the commission to make sure it's implemented correctly. With that, I'd motion to approve as presented.
Motion approved by Commissioner Friesen.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Bogner. I might state the same thing. I don't necessarily agree with some of these languages and some of the woke ideologies personally, but that doesn't affect the way that I look at people and individuals. Anybody that knows my character knows that I think all people are created equal, and I think they have the same rights under our laws and Constitution, and so they certainly should be afforded the help, whether we agree with these language. And if this is what it takes to get it past the state, then at the state level, maybe they need to improve up there. Would be my thing. So, and we have some people that could maybe move that direction. If we need them to do it, we'll just have to lobby them to do so. So anyway, that's my final comments.
Equal and fairly.
Yes.
But on the same hand, there's no definition that I didn't read all of this, okay, but they don't define vulnerable, nor do they define affordable housing. It's more attainable housing to me than affordable, because that will include everyone. Ability to attain housing but I just thought it was kind of interesting that the words were in there like that.
Yeah, no, equitable was
And-
chosen over equal for a reason.
We're not gonna, I don't think any of us are gonna do anything, the staff, employees, anybody, that's going to not treat everyone equal.
Having heard that, roll call?
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes?
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
No.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. Well, we're down to county administrator reports. Been waiting impatiently, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Monthly reports are in the packet for appraiser, HR, IT, maintenance, facilities, public works, solid waste, treasurer, and youth services. Any questions on those, anything in those monthly reports? Also in the packet are the financial reports through October. We're in good shape on all the funds. Didn't really have anything to point out specifically on the financials, but if you have any questions on any of the numbers or any funds, let me know. Then another item I have, just to let you know, I had Chairman Parks sign it before the meeting, is a letter of support for Brightspeed's BEAD application broadband. There's a grant. The county has signed a letter of support. This will be the third company that's applying for some money. So since you guys had indicated at a meeting a couple months ago that you support any of the companies coming to Reno County that wanted to expand broadband fiber service to the residents, that you would support it. So I did have Chairman Parks sign a letter this morning for that. And then just to clarify, on the commission meetings in December, January, as I mentioned, December 23rd is the last meeting of 2024. It's on a Monday because otherwise we'd meet on Christmas Day. But for the current governing body, you also will be meeting on January 8th. Your last meeting with the 5 of you is January 8th. The second Wednesday is before the second Tuesday. So January 8th, you'll have a meeting with the 5 of you. The next Monday is when swearing in of new commissioners. And so then the following meeting is when the new commission would be in place. So just so you're aware that there is one meeting in January for Commissioner Friesen and Commissioner Weitzel. That's all I had.
That's it. County Commission comments? Mr. Friesen? No? Mr. Brogner?
Yeah, a couple of things. I attended the extensions, the local Reno County Extension Agency's annual meeting, and was surprised to see a couple of our employees there. And one of them even came up with an award. Sandra, our media person, apparently on her off time, that gives a little of her time and talent to a few other people, as many of our other employees do. And she got an award for her help in helping them with the media stuff and pictures, and so I thank you for giving to the community, not only that. And that's one of the major things I wanted to bring up. I think I'll leave it go at that.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yeah, along with that same line, I just was shown a picture of the Reno County Courthouse for the green lights on it in the NACO, National Association of Counties. So congratulations on that too. Isn't that it? Do a little report on the Love Where You Live programs at Fairfield and also at Pretty Prairie. a lot of positive out there with the things that we're looking at and doing. And the thing I came away with it as much as anything is we need to work a little harder as commissioners with regards to communication and getting them information as to where funds could be at, or at least providing that information so then they could go ahead and search the areas and see whether it's usable or not for them, and where to go then to provide some grant besides SCED and some other opportunities. That's the primary thing, and I wrote down on my card to take this back to our department heads and the administrator to talk about how we could do and increase that information and communication. And Sheriff and I are working on a deal out in western Reno County that I talked with our administrator on, and we'll see whether we can get together and have some conversation in that regard. I think this is one of those things that a larger community can do, but these smaller communities have indicated a need for property inspection person. And I think maybe that's one of those things that we can kind of look at and work at, and maybe there's some intergovernmental agreements between cities to have that at an economical price. Especially when it comes to vacant and dilapidated buildings. Problem searching for how to change those or change the ownership or at least improve that, where you have not exactly willing sellers and buyers or willing to improve. So there are things we work on. Learn from Pretty Prairie will soon have 8 decent-sized lots for businesses to come in. They're going to have I don't know how they're going to do this, but they're going to have a new Main Street somehow. So what it's going to be called, I don't know. But there was a lot of positive come out of that area. I think they showed a need for assistance with business development, small entrepreneurships, as well as opportunities. And I think it all falls together with the Make My Move. And the one thing I did here is there's very limited and some none of recognitions by KS 105 and Startup Hutch with regards to some of our smaller communities. Just the fact that they need to be recognized as part of Reno County and discuss opportunities and so forth. And that's the things I came away with it. I was impressed that it was all very open and gave me, as their commissioner in those areas, some thoughts moving forward. So
Yeah, so as just about everybody knows, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Just wanted to encourage people to enjoy the time with their family. Maybe go out and talk to a neighbor you haven't met. Just build community by getting to know people, because that's the best way to build community, is by going and talking to your neighbors and figuring out what you've got in common. So wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and that'll be the end for me.
I know, my last comment, it isn't anything that I've been going through, but I want to comment on it for the staff. I know you're paid to do it, but the tremendous amount of hours to put things together for we even show up here today, and some of the stuff that they do, I appreciate it. I appreciate the participation from everybody today in the audience that needed to speak as well. Thank you for your inputs and being here. You have a lot of stuff to do, and I appreciate you hanging in there through this meeting, but I know you two spend hours and hours contemplating things. having been the chair, and when you are the chair, you see some of that stuff that you take for granted. And so thank you for all of your work, you guys. I want to say it openly, so I appreciate it. You guys too, if you're included in that. So thank you so much.
And my assistant Jubilee has to put all these items together, and Shonda also, so they're the ones who really deserve the credit. I don't do any of it.
Well, I say the staff.
Yeah.
So you're telling us you don't do anything?
Yeah, I do.
That's not a good thing to say to the board.
I usually read it before we get to the meeting.
Especially right before his evaluation.
There's a request from Deborah to talk. I know we do follow parliamentary procedure, but would you guys entertain her to make a comment?
Yes, I will. She knows I will.
Thank you. I was waiting for permission to share some of this, and I would have done this in public comment earlier, but I didn't have the email go ahead at that point. I did receive an email yesterday from Chuck Casely, who is a vice president with Evergy, and he wanted me to share just a little bit with you about some expected timelines, because while the announcement has been made, there's going to be a lot of steps over the next few years to work towards an actual construction project. And so he just wanted to clarify a few things. As he said, these plants are still early in their development cycle and are awaiting approval from state and federal regulators. They have a lot of permitting that they do on their end ahead of even getting ready to move towards possible construction. So he said that Evergy plans to engage with all adjacent landowners, as well as those who are potentially impacted or feel like they have been impacted by the proposed plant. It is our intention to work with landowners to enter into good neighbor agreements, which, among other items, could result in financial compensation. They currently, just to note, have an option agreement on the real estate that they're looking at here, but they have not gone to closing on that. So there's still more to be done with the landowner that they're optioning from, but also neighboring landowners. And so this is one of the reasons he's sharing this. He said that Evergy and earlier versions of their company have been part of the Hutch community for well over half a century, and we intend to continue to be an integral part of the local business community for decades to come. To that end, we want this project to have a positive impact on the community, improving the tax base, providing jobs, and being the catalyst for additional economic development. We know that some residents may have concerns, and we want to work diligently and in good faith to resolve them to the best of our ability. Below is the high-level timeline of when we are looking to seek local approvals and annexation so that you and others understand when we will be moving forward. In addition, I commit to let you and others know in advance of filing anything in Reno County, Hutchinson, and South Hutchinson so that you are prepared to fully participate in the process. Finally, as I indicated, we have already filed for state regulatory approval. The filing focuses on the need for the plants and the prudency in the choice of plant we are building. The following list of activities is not comprehensive, but does reflect their intention of engaging with adjacent landowners. So here is their proposed timeline. Between now and the end of January, they will develop some form of what they call good neighbor agreements for the projects, and they will conduct real estate diligence in the area. We will also be assembling a team that will work to with potentially impacted landowners during this time period. Then from February to March, they're going to prepare and file an application for annexation and rezoning of the property in conjunction with the cities of South Hutchinson and Hutchinson, as well as Reno County. There will be public meetings through this process. To note, this would be very much like the island annexation agreement that you all entertained last year on the industrial park. Then third, he said that in the first half of 25, they'll begin on the second half of January sometime, starting to work with the neighboring landowners on the Good Neighbor Agreement subject to completion of project milestones, including a start of construction timeline and commercial operation of the power plant, which they have not expected to begin their construction well into 2026 and opening of the power plant in 2030. In August of next year, they anticipate that they would have state regulatory approval, or there will be hearings about that. And then sometime to be determined in 2026 would be the anticipated start of construction of the plant. So he just wants to continue to convey, and he'll keep in touch on timelines. I know that there are neighbors to the property that probably have expressed concerns and want to know what the impacts are. And so Evergy just wants to be really clear that they're going to work in good faith with all of the neighbors surrounding the site to make sure that they're working with them in good faith on those good neighbor agreements. So if you get questions about that, just know There's a process in place, and at the highest level of Evergy, they're working on it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate that. Well, at this time, we're going to move into executive session. And are we going to stay down here?
We can go upstairs or we can stay in there.
Well, we can stay here. We're just going to simply adjourn after the executive session. So we might ask everybody to go ahead. You're welcome to come in for the adjournment, but that's all we're going to do at the end. So I'm going to make a motion here. I motion to move the board to enter executive session until, how much time you need? Okay. 11:15 with county administrator, county counselor, subject matter to be county employee performance, and the justification for the executive session is to protect the privacy and interest of non-elected personnel.
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Does anybody want a copy of this?
It's just, oh, yeah.
Button there, there it is.
Are you on the air now? Okay, you get me confused. Officially reconvened, and we are going to adjourn this meeting.